Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Monday's top stories with me, Cressida Wetton, still joined by the meat feast that is the People's Gammon, Paul Cox, and the People's Silly Sausage, Lewis Schaefer.
Nice.
I like that. That's better. That's silly sauce.
Beginning with Monday's Telegraph, there was a time when we thought Keir Starmer didn't know what a woman is. It turns out he just doesn't think it matters, Paul.
So true, Cressida. Labour won't close biological sex loophole in Equality Act. So the government will not carry out forward plans to rewrite the Equality Act of 2010 that were aimed at protecting single-sex spaces. So this is the Minister for Women and Equalities has confirmed this, ironically. For those who don't know, obviously the Tories plan to rewrite the Act in order to make it clear that sex in the legislation means biological sex instead of gender which a person identifies. So they're not going to clear this up. They're going to keep it as open and as vague as possible to allow people to do what they like, essentially. And, you know, it's on brand, isn't it?
Well, it certainly is.
And they've taken anything that they disliked. For me, it smacks of a government that have never governed before. Each policy just seems like a knee-jerk reaction. There seems to always be a target group. There's someone it's always very binary, ironically. There's always a group that they like and a group they don't like. They'll attack from the position of the group that they like to the group that they don't like. And for me, this is... I know you disagree, Lewis, because that's professionally what you do. But... yeah. For me, this is exactly what's going on here. I think it's really important that we ring-fence sex and identify what sex really is, because it makes everything a lot clearer for people. Now, that may upset some people, and I'm not sorry for that, really, but that's just fact, isn't it? It's just absolute fact, and we have to stand by facts. Otherwise, what have we got, Lewis?
So you're saying that Labour doesn't care about having these bathrooms, which could be some question.
I don't think they do care. I genuinely don't think they do care. I think they're totally overrun by ideology, and I think that women should have safe spaces for women.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's ideology. Yeah. So the shadow minister, this is for Women and Equalities, has said Labour simply cares more about appeasing woke ideologues than delivering on women's safety. I mean, it's that simple.
No, it isn't that simple. It's even simpler than that. It's that. What is there funny about this is that Labour is the party, is Team World, and they believe in gender non-identity, whatever, or gender identity. They believe that it's not a problem, whereas people on our side, let's say that is our side, which I'm not sure it's my side, but whatever, is that we believe that you should have a girls' bathrooms. We don't want men in our bathrooms. They don't care. So if they don't care, why they're not going to make a big deal about it? Is that simpler?
I think you agreed with us. I don't know if you meant to.
Yeah, I thought it was the same, to be honest. Yeah, well, it continues, doesn't it? I thought this was on its way out. It looks like it isn't.
No, it isn't, because the other team, Team World, those people who believe in COVID and they believe in climate change and they believe in trans stuff, they believe this stuff. So why are you asking them to go against what they believe? They're not...
I'm not asking. It would be my preference. OK, staying in the Telegraph.
Sorry about that. Was that too much?
I've got no idea. Parents would rather trust a child with their life savings than trust our own government.
Yeah, well, this is the same point. The same point is that their team, families rush to give away fortunes over inheritance tax rate fears. And what they're saying is they're going to raise and raise because they don't think that the people's money... This is the thing about Keir Starmer. He's a lovely guy. He seems like a very nice guy, but he thinks he's better than everybody else. And that's the thing about the left. They think they can do better job spending my money, the little money that I make, spending your money, making more money than I make, whatever it is, that they think. And so what they're going to do is the budget's coming out in October, and it's going to take more and more of our money away from us. So they're saying that the people are saying we got to figure out how to spend the money before Labour gets a hold of it.
Yeah, OK, so you're quickly getting rid of your millions. Paul, what do you make of it?
I always think that inheritance tax, particularly to the nth degree that Labour will take it, is robbing the future to pay for today's scornful Labour policies. I genuinely think it is robbery. I mean, this is money that people have accumulated. So if you basically, in order to keep taking it the way they do, you have to dislike the fact that they have this money or have accumulated this money in some way. And that, and they create an image in people's minds that this is very rich and very wealthy people. It's not necessarily, particularly given the housing price booms of the last couple of generations, which means that people that were working class or middle class, aspiring in any way, have been able to generate a small wealth for themselves to pass on to the future of their families, to give them a better life. And this is taking it away. And I think Labour are trying to create this in order to justify the way that they're going to spend this money. For me, it's...
Well, of course, they would say it's wealth redistribution, wouldn't they? They say that they've got a black hole from the Tories and that they need to do this so they can go to poorer people. But it does disincentivise people, doesn't it?
But that's what Labour does. You're acting all surprised at this thing. That's what Labour does. They think they know better. They're going to take away people's money, and they're going to, it's like what Margaret Thatcher said about this, which I forgot. But there's when they run out of, it's like it's all.
Oh, it's very easy to run out of other people's money.
Other people's money, and that's what they are doing. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have elected them, because the Tories were basically doing the same thing. They were raising taxes and taking people's money, and they weren't doing a better job of it. Then you need to have a political party who cares about the family, the country, family and the country, and maybe your.
We know Labour are going to come hard.
Is that my tie?
It is your tie.
Is that my tie?
It is your tie. We had this discussion before we come on air.
No, we didn't.
Now's not the time to have it.
We did it.
He thinks that ties are just.
That was the tie that I wore on this show.
Keir Starmer's approach to taking.
I have. Right. Look, this is redistribution of ties.
So well, Monday's Express now. The government recently came under fire for discriminating against old people. For balance, they're now going after kids with special needs as well, Paul.
They are. Disaster for Keir Starmer as Labour faces High Court legal challenge. So the policy, a key element of Labour's tax proposals, which we've seen, this 20% or VAT on private education, is under threat as lawyers argue it discriminates against children with special education needs, SEN, for those who are familiar with that. And it's true. Many people are under the impression that the children that are going to these private schools are going there because their families are wealthy. And in some cases, of course, that's true. Of course, it's true. However, there are lots of aspiring families that have chosen to send that have scrimped and saved and sacrificed a lot of things to send their children to private schools to improve, for instance, children with dyslexia. Because in our state schools, there are classrooms 30, 40 deep, and a child that has any particular special needs gets lost in that amongst a disruption of 30 or 40 children in one room.
That's a very good point. I mean, I understand that, but I also think the state schools maybe could do with improving. I mean, that's...
I agree. So there is some... But however, it seems this is a pointed attack. For me, it feels... I'm someone who never went to a private school. I don't know if either of you two did. But I didn't go to a private school. But you can obviously see the benefits of private schools. And if someone has aspired to do that, I think they should be able to do that. For me, it's a bit like building wealth through and not having it taken away.
Oh, my God. Your whole thing... People have to rethink things completely here. Is that this is just 20% tax that the government is taking away, charging people from an already high amount that they're charging the people. And the people that they're charging, those kids who are going to school, their parents still have to pay into the tax system, which is going to other people to send their kids. The whole thing is not... The state should not be having school systems. They're unfit. People in this country, they love the government. Whatever you call it, not the government. In American, we call it the government. They love the state. They think, oh my God, the state can do a good job with the schools. They can. I wouldn't trust my kids to go to school, just as I wouldn't trust my kids with the NHS. I wouldn't trust my kids with anything that the government has because it's run by people like Keir Starmer.
OK, well, for a bit of pushback, I really enjoyed my GCSEs and I'm glad I've got them. So moving to The Guardian, Donald Trump's had a bright idea about what to do with unscrupulous behaviour. I hope you're taking notes, Lewis.
You know what? I should take notes because Donald Trump is now a great man. I'm sorry. He was heading in that direction. I didn't believe it a few years ago. I was anti-Trump. But now I'm totally converted to the guy. The guy got shot in the head. Trump threatens. He got shot in the head and is shouting, come on, the guy's got... I mean, you can't use that
got shot in
word.
The head, and now he's your kind of guy.
He's my kind because you can see he's getting better. He's going to die.
Just a quick question: did you ever get shot in the head?
No, I've been kicked in the head.
It just felt appropriate.
I'm trying my best tonight. Please, Paul, give me a break. You stole my tie. I just had it on the counter there.
Story.
Sorry. Of course you were a very good student with your GCSEs.
There's people on Twitter who've specifically asked me to keep you in line tonight.
Of course they do, because they don't know any better. The ones who don't are my fans. Anyway, Trump threatens to jail adversaries for unscrupulous behavior if he wins. What did he say? What did Trump say? He says, when I win, those people who cheated will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentence so that this depravity of justice does not happen again. Is that so shocking? He said if they've cheated, which is against the law, it means against the law, they'll be prosecuted. Meanwhile, Donald Trump's been prosecuted 4 times and is still on his feet. He's
it is
the
in
man.
The Guardian, isn't it, Paul? I mean, they have a history of not being big Trump fans.
God love The Guardian.
Noticed.
I mean, this is unbelievable, really, because this language is quite tame in comparison to the language that they've supported from the Labour Party when they've talked about things like the full force of the law against rioters in this country. Yeah. They have absolutely backed and supported Keir Starmer's sending people to prison for 3 years for saying the wrong thing on the internet. And now, all of a sudden, they're clutching their pearls at Donald Trump. Oh, Donald is saying something. The Guardian are hilarious. This is the one reason I'm glad there's still a publication, because when stuff comes like this, it must be so difficult for them to write. Yeah. It's like they should do it in front of the mirror. Can I continue to do this? What did I say last week? If it suits them, if it's in line with their ideology, it's fine.
And
if it doesn't, it's
and
not.
you're right about them clutching their pearls. That's what the Democratic Party in America has become. That's what Labour Party has become. These fancy pants people who are living in East Dulwich. They're just, you know what I mean?
Specific.
Yeah, he doesn't like East Dulwich.
That's the end of part 2.